Hey everybody, it's Eric. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free, and I absolutely love that about Anchor. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, and Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. In other words, you can start making money as soon as possible. It's everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, remember to download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Pulled them down, and we're walking down, and so Mark, the head of the whole mission, he's like, "Hey, I've been listening to your podcast. Good stuff. I really like, you guys are really witty. You've got good repartee." I was like, "Cool, thanks."
Nice. Nice.
It's like my wife's boss is listening. I have to be good.
Nicely. About your superhero wife.
Right.
Yeah, now you got to mind your P's and Q's a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, her promotion might rest on your shoulders. Well, welcome to the show, You, Me, Your Mom. The show where three people sit down and talk about, well, whatever they want to talk about. I'm your host, Eric, and we're joined today by our other two hosts, my best friend, Brandon.
That's me.
And my mom. Mom.
Hello.
Her name is Andy. How are you guys?
I'm here. It's been a long day. There have been quite a few of those lately. I'm sure our listeners are saying, well, no, duh, you idiot. It's been like that ever since lockdown went into effect. But I don't know. The last few days, today has just seemed especially long. Like it seems I've lived a whole day since just 2:30 p.m.
Oh, no. I could totally follow the saga of Brandon. Please, by all means.
And right now it's 9/11. Never forget. So yeah, just the last 6.5 hours have been spectacular.
I never get bored from your life, man. I got to be honest. I come in, I sit down, I'm like, what happened to Brandon next?
Oh, well, that new car I bought, the engine's making funny noises.
Oh my gosh.
It's almost like it's just staying constantly in a lower gear. And today when I was driving home, it started to sound especially harried upon, and the descent control light came on, which kicks into effect when you've been steadily driving downhill at a steep incline and reduced rate to save your brakes. And I'm like, well, yeah, kind of was spot on apparently about that shifting problem. Fortunately, I have an appointment for it next Monday once my wife and I get back in town. So I just swapped out my car for hers and ran and picked up dinner.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what God managed to tick off in Michigan, who runs around in Michigan causing mischievousness for you, but it's just never ends for you. And as your really good friend, half of me goes, oh my gosh, this is terrible. The other half of me, the more Eric side of me goes, this is amazing. Like it's never ending.
No, I can absolutely sympathize. Don't worry.
I sit down, I'm like, please, sir, tell me more.
I've raised a psychopath.
I'm sorry for your misfortune, but things
just
happen.
Just the kind of person who goes into funeral homes and brings his own bag of peanut M&Ms.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it's not any worse than it is. Let's just put it that way. Hey, as I always say, things could always be worse, right?
Amen.
Mom, how are you?
I'm good. I'm better than I was last week. So my breathing issues are getting better. Of course, now I have my very own breathing treatment station at home.
Yeah.
So
I've heard.
Yeah, a nebulizer does amazing work. So I'm doing much better with that. Just working at this point. I spent the weekend in front of the nebulizer. But now I'm back to work, and not that I missed any anyway, but yeah, there's some drawbacks from working at home. It's like, if I take a sick day, well, I can't really talk. Well, I'm counselor, so I don't really have to talk. So it's like, So mostly I sat here and listened to my clients, and once in a while I would say, can you tell me more?
How did that make you feel?
Yeah. Can you tell me more about how that made you feel? And then, breathe some more. So
Well, when you say
Yeah.
breathe some more, can you explain? Because all I'm picturing is you saying, "Can you tell me some more?" and then heavy breathing.
Oh
So
gosh, yeah, don't go creepy on me. Yeah, no,
that's
I
the only
meant
image I
like,
immediately got. So
yeah, which is it's really concerning that that's the image that first popped in your head. You were
Yeah, I
raised in
could
a mom
honestly
who's
say that didn't come into my
I
top
know,
five.
right? Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. First, he was psychopath about your misfortunes, right? I think we're going to call him Lemony Snicket. And then he's like, his first thing to me was,
Props.
space, talk
The
about this
reference.
breathing about, yeah, I mean, my goodness, right?
hey, listen. Raise a child up in the way he should go, and he will not depart from it.
Are you
No,
blaming
no,
me
Just saying.
again?
not through your nose, the other way.
I had
Are
this
you a mouth
teacher.
breather?
I got to tell this funny story. I had this teacher.
College teacher.
Well, no, he was a high
Oh,
school teacher. Let me explain for those that are listening. Mom homeschooled me all the way up until 8th grade. When I entered 9th grade, Mom enrolled me in a correspondence school. And the correspondence school was really interesting. They would tape their classes that were being conducted in the high school, and then they would send you all these tapes. And this was back in the 90s, so it was all VHS tapes.
I was always
And you
ahead of
would
my
watch the
time.
videos. You were, yeah, you were really sporty.
Mm.
And you would watch these tapes as a kid or student, and then you do the work, and then you would send the work into the school, and they would grade it, and then you would graduate with it from an actual school. It was really interesting. So my algebra teacher, and back then they were using the lapel mics, and Mr. Ty was an older gentleman.
Oh, I did
And
have this, Mr.
oh yeah, I'm sure you did, because he went on to teach college actually. So he would wear the lapel, but he would wear the lapel mic way too close to his mouth, like right up on top of his collar. And he would tell us to do a problem, and then he would get quiet so we could focus on the problem. And the whole time you would just hear this, and I'm going to do it right into the mic. So if you're listening, you might want to back away just a little bit because it's going to be loud. It sounds just like this. Imagine trying to take a test with that. It would drive you absolutely insane.
And from someone who experienced this live and in person, it sounds cooler than what it actually was. Imagine like a more like phlegmy and like almost asthmatic Darth Vader. That sounded a little too on the nose for Dark Helmet Eric, but I gotta say like that was pretty good.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was just, and you just sit there in silence and just hear it, and your soul would wither and die. I wonder if I lost my enthusiasm for math that year. In fact, I don't have to wonder. I know I was good at math, but I did not care for math after that. I was just like, I'm going to do it and get gone. I'm done. That it sucked all joy of doing any kind of math problem out of me. I think it was also one of those things that drove me to more of the soft subjects like literature and everything else. So, yeah.
Oh, he says that like he wasn't reading Shakespeare in the 3rd grade.
I have a Mr.
Mom
story
doesn't
too.
flex
That's
like she just subtly flexes on my reading repertoire. You
Yeah,
ever notice she does that?
I do.
Publicly? It's weird, and I always feel uncomfortable. I appreciate the praise, but it's weird. They're like, oh, by the way, my son read Shakespeare at the grade.
He did. He did.
37
I'll
over.
feel bad, Eric. My mom did that too. Although it was more like the volume, because like, oh yeah, he just read his like second like series that's recommended for 6th graders, and he's the 3rd.
Little pinky goes up right beside your mouth.
Yes. I need a little cat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the flex is amazing. Mom. It just makes me embarrassed. Is all it does.
Oh,
Good.
man,
Let me get some more of this.
I have a Mr. story too, although mine doesn't relate to breathing. And it actually is going to make you feel kind of sorry for the poor man. So I had him my first semester in college, and my roommate's brother was in the other section of the same class. I think it was Algebra 2. And we would kind of compare notes if one of us, fell asleep or just wasn't paying attention, because it was Algebra 2 and both of us had already finished this in high school and were just kind of taking it as an easy class. But so we were just comparing notes one day, and so I was just telling him one day, he burst into my room and he said, "Is it true?" And I said, "What?" He's like, you gave flashbacks?" And I was like, "Oh gosh, I hope not." So what had happened was, this was a 1st-hour class. So 8 a.m. Algebra 2, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's exactly the class you want first thing on a Monday morning, let me tell you. But Mr. had this habit of, if he had 30 seconds before the bell rang, he would start another problem, and he wouldn't dismiss you until he finished that problem. and Mr. kind of talked like this. He was Southern. He kind of sounded like he had a mouthful of gravy at all time. Real nice, real nice. But you know what? We'll just eat this elephant one bite at a time.
He said that all the time. I'm having flashbacks. What in the world?
And he had that like older old man belly, not necessarily fat, just like hard lower belly that had gotten softer over the years. So anytime the man turned, he just like wiped off whatever he'd written on the board. So someone had this was the day after a test, or it was the class period after a test, so we were going over it, and someone had asked a question, so he was explaining the answer, and it was really great, as long as he was riding high and didn't run out and had to start riding low, and because we all know how that was going to turn out. And the poor man finishes explaining it, and we're like, yeah, great, looks good. And we all look, and there is 1 minute left. And he's like, all right, now this problem I noticed some of y'all gave me some problems, so let me go ahead and work through this one. And we saw the one he was starting, and it was going to take him the entire minute to write it on the board. So all of a sudden, someone in the class just goes, and he'd always talked about having served in the military, and specifically in Vietnam. And all of a sudden, this voice pops up, sir, did you ever kill anybody in Vietnam? And just everybody in the room just goes,
I know.
Like, you could hear sphincters clenching and just the air go out of the room. And all of a sudden, I look at poor Mr. This very kindly, just a little slow, very kindly, older Southern gentleman. And all of a sudden, he is back in the jungles.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, no, this poor man. And he came back, like, right away. But for about 2-3 seconds, like, you could tell he went somewhere else. And he's like, well, it was a very difficult time. Class dismissed. It was the one time that
poor man.
Like those 3 seconds lasted an eternity.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I knew he served, but I had no idea. Oof.
Yeah.
No, that was.
Well, he didn't talk about it very often for good reason, apparently.
Yeah.
But like, we just like went in the hallway, and if we had not been at a Christian college where any kind of physical repercussion would have been immediately responded to with expulsion, like that kid would have gotten the royal beatdown.
Yeah.
Just because,
no idea.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Oh, I bet. Like,
yeah,
he's him, but he's a good fella.
Oh yeah, he was a real sweet guy. He's just, like I said, very, very nice, very, very kind of slow, talk like this.
That's interesting. Oh,
yeah.
Goodness. How do you recover? You don't recover from
Class
that.
Dismissed. That's how you recover.
Wow. He handled it like a champ. That kid had some gall to him.
Yeah.
Well,
and like, you could tell when we got out in the hallway, he felt horrible. He's like, before I even knew what I was saying, it was just out of my mouth. I was thinking it, and there was like this 3 millisecond whole chain of events in my brain that said, I bet this question, make them pause for at least a minute. And I wasn't expecting a hard reset.
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm going to try to transfer out of that story.
So you know where that happened? Florida. And Mr. Tin was a man.
That's right. And we're going to be talking about Florida man today. Thank you, Brandon. That's amazing. I'll do a slow transition.
I can't even breathe now.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Brandon has talent. We've been holding him back, apparently. Yes,
oh, gosh.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't even know you guys.
Okay. I got to rein it back in. We're on limited time. I can't recover, man. Hold on. I can't do it. I can't stop laughing. All right. Okay. We thought we would take on Florida Man today. Now, I know that we've been talking about it off and on all this whole spring and summer, but we thought we'd take just a good time to kind of break down Florida Man stories, laugh about the ones that are more of our favorites than others. And we just want to say really quickly, there's more than just Florida. I'm still laughing. More than just Florida Man, there's also Florida women and Florida children. So I'm sure we're going to be talking about that. I know that Brandon and Mom, they've got some stories of theirs that is their favorites. I've got some favorites, but I also I'm going to do something a little different. I'm dropping on them too. I'm going to actually talk about some interesting history of Florida. It kind of set the idea that Florida man is not something new. Florida man has been around a long time. And so I'm going to tell you some crazier stories from the lore and histories of Florida as well. So it's an interesting kind of thing we're going to be doing today. To kind of tee us up and get us started, let me talk about the phenomenon of Florida man and what could contribute to Florida man for those that are joining us for the first time today. Florida man is a phenomenon that is found all over the internet. And what it is there are all kinds of stories about men in Florida doing the weirdest stuff possible. And it's all over the internet. And it's become so prevalent that it's literally becoming a thing of legends, if you will. You can always catch them doing interesting things, bizarre things. It usually involves alcohol, alligators, guns, and anything in between. So
Bath salts.
yeah, bath salts, anything in between. So Florida man has really kind of become an internet joke. And so we're going to be talking about our favorite ones. And for those that are joining us for the first time, the reason why is Florida has a big place in all three of our hearts. I'm still living in Florida, in around Orlando, and Brandon and I met in Pensacola, and that's where we met. And then obviously I grew up in the Panhandle. Mom was living there with me at the time for obvious reasons. I'm sure you guys can deduce as a mother and son how that works. So we all have a special place in our heart for Florida and weird Florida news stories. And so that's kind of the teeing it up. One last thing to know about Florida man, and I found this interesting, is why are people so crazy in Florida? That's a great question. Well, I don't know if we are genuinely crazier down here, although I do suspect it's because our state is so large. We do have so many different cultures and people that are all coexisting beside each other. I think it actually has to do with something called the Sunshine Law. Do you guys know about the Sunshine Law?
I do, but just because of my friendship with you.
Okay, all right. I think I've mentioned it to you before. Well, the Sunshine
Yeah.
Law is something really unique to Florida. Way back at the turn of the century, the Florida government really thought that everything that the public offices do should be made public and available for everyone. Anytime the government is involved, those records should be made available to everyone. Now, what's that mean? That means any major transactions that the government does, such as purchasing land, such as investing, such as approval for projects, such as budgets, everything is public. Now, what falls underneath that law is anytime someone is arrested. And you not only have it they're arrested, but you have what they're arrested for. That makes it unique in the Union. And the reason why it makes it unique in the United States is because most states do not have that. Most states, you're not allowed to report on it right away why this person was arrested. And there are specific privacy laws to protect the person that has been taken to the station and protect them until it's more appropriate to release that information to the public. Florida does not have that statute. It's very easy to get public records. So over the course of many years and decades, news reporters found it super easy to simply monitor all police activity because, again, it's open, available for all the public to access. So it's easy headlines for news reporters. And so what has happened over the years, as soon as someone is arrested, they're allowed to report on what happened. Now, it circumstances privacy laws because our privacy laws are not nearly as restricted. So what happens is news reporters begin to focus on stories that are bizarre just to catch people's attention. So long story short, I often wonder, is Florida crazier than the rest of the states, or is everyone crazy and we're just not hearing about it except for in Florida? So having said all of that, Florida man is still one of those things that are near and dear to my heart. It's just an interesting perspective on Florida man. So there's the Sunshine Law. Without further ado, what do you guys want to do? Anybody want to go first? Give us your best Florida story, because I'm just dying to hear them. They're like my favorite.
I'll start with one of my favorites that I just discovered because I'd heard this story on various podcasts like Dumb People Town, which is kind of an entire podcast about, well, I'm sure you can figure it out, stupid things people do. But on researching it myself, I discovered this actually happened in Pensacola, our favorite.
Yes, it did.
2 Florida men arrested after package labeled bag full of drugs found in car. Pensacola, Florida. After 2 men were pulled over Saturday in Florida for speeding, a state trooper found a bag inside their car with the words, "bag full of drugs," printed on the outside. Now, the reason what brought this story to mind is on July 4th, actually, I think I mentioned last week, we went out to Saugatuck, Michigan for my friend Emily's birthday. And that evening we were walking around some of the shops, and and Saugatuck is this, kind of like, it's the Michigan version of like a Florida beach town, basically. Very touristy. It is on the beach of Lake Michigan. So it's a nice little, very trendy area. So we're walking through. One of them was a cannabis shop. Not necessarily like an actual dispensary, but, you can get, your sunglasses with the weed leaf printed on them and things like that. But my wife actually laughed when she saw the bag full of drugs bag. So when the trooper peeked inside, he found that the bag was indeed full of drugs. In total, law enforcement seized 75 grams of methamphetamine, 1.36 kilograms of GHB, a sedative, 1 gram of cocaine, 15 MDMA tablets, drug paraphernalia, and 3.6 grams of fentanyl from inside the Kia sedan. "This isn't something we see every day," said Lieutenant Robert Cannon of the Florida Highway Patrol. Which,
let's hope not.
I don't know. I lived in Pensacola for the better part of a decade, and I don't know if that wouldn't be out of the ordinary. If the presence of fentanyl, GHB, and methamphetamine wasn't such a serious public health hazard, a blight, then it would be humorous. When asked if it's atypical for law enforcement to find a bag of drugs literally labeled as a bag full of drugs, Cannon replied flatly, "Yes," he said. "Yes, I'd say it's rare."
I love this. So that's another thing about these news
yeah,
articles.
and the source for this is usatoday.com.
usatoday.com. I love those dry humors. You'll see that a lot with officers. They're just real flat about yes.
Yeah, and if you want to read more about the story, that's the first half. Everything else is, I don't need to give the names of the drivers or anything like that, and how fentanyl is. It's all fluff from there. But yeah, bag full of drugs, which actually was a bag full of drugs.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw Pensacola, Florida, I barked laughing and said, "Of course it was."
Well, there's something around organizing and labeling, that just makes sense to this mom. Yeah. I think that organizing and labeling is important.
I wonder if there were little color-coded Tupperware containers for each drug. Like the meth was in the one with the green lid, and
maybe they grew up with a mom that organized for them and showed them how to do that. So good for them.
Hermione Granger was a drug addict. That's amazing.
Oh my goodness, it is an amazing story.
Well, I appreciate their ambition to keep everything straight. I do. I like that.
Yeah.
I can just imagine the conversation they had. We are not putting all the drugs in a bag that says bag full of. No. What are they going to do? They're going to take it seriously. Do you think they'll actually search the bag full of drugs for drugs? Yeah, they probably will.
I love the fly on the wall listening to the reason.
So much.
Yeah, maybe all the drugs didn't make it into the bag. Yeah.
Well, I love
that's my first one.
Okay.
All right, Mom, what do you got?
Well, the first one I have tonight, actually, let me set it up, because when we worked in the prison in Florida, we had all of these young men, and one of the things that we learned about these young men is that they really liked body spray. They absolutely did. If they did something outstanding, or it was their birthday or something, if we would bring them like Axe body spray or something like that, that was a big deal. And they would spray it all over themselves, and then the rest of us would gag, and it would be really kind of sad. Yeah. So I think it was soon after Axe kind of came out, got popular at the time. So my first story is actually a Florida boy. He's actually a Florida teen, and he's a high school teenager. And he was in Jacksonville, Florida, not Pensacola, so straight across the state, still in the north. But he caused a whole school's gym to be evacuated because he saw what he thought was body spray in a peer's bag. He took it out and sprayed it all over himself in the gym. However, it was not body spray, it was pepper spray.
Oh my God. No.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
no.
yeah, thinking it was that body spray, he took it, he sprayed himself as if he were applying that Axe all over himself, is what the principal said. And they ended up having to evacuate the whole gym, and 41 students had to be taken by ambulance to the hospital. Hopefully, good thing that all of them were okay, but they had to take all of the kids out of the gym, move them to the football field after this pepper spray was released. About half of the students that were present ended up needing medical attention. 41 had to go to the hospital on that same day. All of them only suffered minor injuries, which is good. However, some of the students are saying, well, that was pretty traumatic. So when he did it, they said everybody started running out of the gym. And then when the 7th grader came out, he said, somebody threw up. It looked like blood, but somebody threw up. I just called my mom and told her what happened, and she handled the situation. I'm not really sure what his mom did, but she handled the situation. Yeah. He said, in the meantime, I had a burning feeling in my chest and in my throat. I was barely able to talk, but I could call my mom. So, yeah, the principal then said, well, while this was obviously a major disruption, the investigation revealed that there was no intention to disrupt school, and therefore there are no basis for more serious charges. So, just because of the Axe body spray, I thought, well, that made sense to me. So,
gosh.
Yeah. But I'm glad that the mom was able to handle the situation.
I know. How did she organize an army of moms to go and handle it? Is that how that worked?
Maybe she was the mom who taught the drug people how to put it in labeled bags of drugs.
Could be.
I don't know. Apparently she handled the situation. So
I don't know, handling it like the mob do. I think that's
I
don't know how that turned out.
That could just go in so many different ways. And then you also have to wonder about a boy in high school who pulled out the spray and couldn't read pepper spray as opposed to body spray. No child left behind, I guess.
That was the thing when everybody ran outside.
No, they were just leaving those children behind. You stay, I'm getting out before you. I know. Can't you just see this though? He's like, and imagine how much of this Axe body spray he thought he was spraying on himself and that happened to evacuate the entire gym, right? More than half had to have some kind of medical attention. 41 had to go to the hospital.
Oh
how much of this stuff do you think he was spraying on himself?
Seriously, how did he not how did his skin just not start coming off if it was that bad for everyone else? Seriously, how did it not irritate that he was at least getting some kind of breakout that was bleeding? I'm truly baffled.
I don't know. I mean, with kids throwing up and everything, it had to be quite a bit. So,
yeah.
And that's why it took me back.
Is he still alive today? Are there long-term effects from this? I'm genuinely curious now.
I know. And then I wonder, was he related to some of those boys that we saw in the prison? Because they could do that Axe body spray just that same way.
He would spray it in the air as a cloud and then jump into the cloud.
Yeah. And the cloud would push back.
You know what I think of? Do you remember Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, the orc that had the torch and he's running towards the bomb in the Helm's Deep?
Oh, yes.
And all the smoke's coming out behind him. There's
yes.
Through the gym with all the smoke going
yes. Oh my goodness.
Exactly what it's
yeah.
Too funny. Oh my gosh. I have all these flashbacks because I taught that age group for many years, 7 years. So I believe I do not doubt it in the slightest. This kid did this. I do not doubt it in the slightest. I'd see kids just drown themselves in cologne.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently this kid thought the gym smelled, because he was spraying it all over the gym.
Like communication for the win.
I guess so.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're funny.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one. I like this one. This one makes me laugh. It's a short story, but it makes me laugh. I'm going to not say his name just for privacy's sake because he Didn't even know you can look it up. Off the beat, man jailed after wet willy caper in St. Lucie County. I used to live in this area, so it made me laugh. Here we go. A 47-year-old man was jailed after allegations he gave his girlfriend a wet willy. This person of this address in Fort Pierce was arrested on battery charge after some incidents. A St. Lucie County Sheriff's Department went on his listed address. His girlfriend said that this person was drunk on the living room floor when she got home from work. The girlfriend said that he accompanied her and her daughter to another home where he continued to drink and be belligerent. On the way home, she said that he started grabbing her arm and pulling her hand. Further, she went on to say, continued by giving her, quote, a wet willy, sticking his finger in her ear. And then I love this about this. The article concludes with referencing Urban Dictionary. I want you guys to think about the horror that we've got a newspaper referencing Urban Dictionary as a source. Here we go. According to Urban Dictionary, a wet willy is a prank in which a prankster licks or spits on his finger, sticks it in the victim's ear hole, and then turns it around.
Eric, I have 2 questions. Is this story from the TC Palm?
Yes.
Is it written by Will Greenlee?
On this. Yes.
I knew it. I knew it. Sorry, that was really loud.
Yes. Apparently, you are a fan of Willie Green stories. Well done.
Oh, Will Greenlee. Okay, so the podcast I mentioned earlier, Dumb People Town, like they regularly use this guy's stories. If you look up more stories by this author, the one of the common theories is that he has about 2,000 words to fill and can only write about 1,000 words. So as soon as you said a wet willy is defined by Urban Dictionary, I was like, this is a Greenlee. I know this. This is a Greenlee. There's a Greenlee at least every other episode, if not more frequently.
Well,
so then what they'll do on the podcast
of our times.
Oh, yeah. So then what they'll do, the guy who aggregates the stories, he'll actually make up some of his own fake, like over necessary explanations and add them in and make everyone else guess. He's like, okay, so was that a Greenlee or did I make that one up?
That's amazing. Well, this podcast is going to the top of the queue. Thanks for the shout out.
Oh, yeah. Dumb People Town is spectacular.
Oh,
if you ever need to feel better about yourself, it's the best. It's like listening to an episode of Jersey Shore.
That's amazing.
I should say it's the audio version of watching an episode of the Jersey Shore. There we go.
Yeah. Well, I love this story because it's like, you can think of all the ways to be arrested, right? And this guy who's from Florida, he's like, hold my beer. He gets arrested by being overly aggressive in his wet willies. It's amazing to me. And it's followed up with, we're going to cite Urban Dictionary as a source. I think that's amazing. There's so much about this little 1,000-word snippet just makes me smile. Every time I read that story, it just cracks me up. I think it's amazing. So that's my first story. Back to y'all. What do you got?
Okay. So I'm going to do a Florida woman.
Oh.
Florida woman arrested after dancing naked in Waffle House parking lot, licking employee's face.
Okay.
A Florida woman was arrested for exposing herself and assaulting a Waffle House employee in the restaurant's parking lot. According to the local news, the altercation took place in Pensacola, Florida. Hey! I genuinely didn't know this one was from Pensacola. I forgot about that. But took place in Pensacola, Florida between 36-year-old, and this is the woman's full name, Freedom Ryder Zobrist.
No.
That's an awesome name.
It is, but she looks like a hot mess.
I just realized what you said. Sorry, don't mind me. That got me. I'd heard that one before. That's amazing. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm good.
We're gonna have to like get it out. Just like 20 seconds of just ridiculous laughing in this episode. Okay. Altercation between 36-year-old Freedom Ryder Zobrist and an unidentified Waffle House employee. Hold on. Sorry, my article disappeared.
It wasn't free.
No, like I just had the whole thing up, and it. The Scandinavian County Sheriff's Office report on the incident states that Zobrist was already at the restaurant When an employee arrived for his shift, due to her behavior, Zobrist was asked to leave the premises and ran away without her belongings. Not wanting to throw her things away, her personal items were moved to the back of the restaurant so she could retrieve them if she came back. Zobrist returned later in the employee's shift, hanging near the back door of the building. When the employee asked her to leave, she allegedly responded by cussing and threatening to shoot the employee in the face. The report also states that Zobrist said she would shoot the other Waffle House employees and the restaurant's customers. Stay classy, Pensacola. According to the report, after threatening the employee, Zobrist walked out into the parking lot, pulled down her pants, exposing her sexual organs, and started dancing around the parking lot, the employee said. She then reportedly approached the employee and attempted to grab his genitals. So, just equal opportunity. When the employee prevented Zobrist from grabbing him, she reportedly licked both sides of his face. A witness in the parking lot also told police that she blocked his car to prevent him from leaving the lot and danced naked in front of his car. Officers with the sheriff's office arrested her on counts of lewd and lascivious behavior, indecent exposure of sexual organs, disorderly contact, battery, and assault. Each charge was given quite a large bond. I won't give the details. You can look it up on newsweek.com.
Well, that's got to be the new definition to the Grand Slam. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, how do you even start with that, breaking that story down? I mean, obviously she was on something. I mean, that's the only explanation for that, right?
Oh yeah, she's got like strawberry blonde, ginger red hair, and a whole lot of pock marks on the face.
Oh, that's too bad. Like in some ways you want to laugh, and in other ways you're like, oh, what did it get there? How did they get there? But yeah, that's amazing. Well, at least she was like inviting everyone to join the party. I mean, that's
right.
Considerate after threatening to kill him. For those who are listening, you should see Mom's face. I don't think she's quite recovered yet. That's too funny.
I need a minute.
A lot to process.
I'm a little bit Southern, and I'm having the vapors at this point.
She ran around showing everybody's over. Oh no, I'm not gonna do it. That's a bad joke. There's a joke about exposing waffles. I'm just gonna leave it be. There's some jokes I can make about Waffle House now. Let me tell you, this is like we try to keep it semi-clean in this place. Yeah, I'll just let those that are with us just imagine those jokes for
Yes.
Well, I love that story. I think that one trumps it so far. What do you got, Mom? You ready?
All right, I do have one. So speaking of someone who's decided my new wardrobe consists of mostly yoga pants, since I am online, I can wear yoga pants at work. So I found this one. A Florida woman, and by the way, this was on Fox News of all places. A Florida woman A Florida woman was in the passenger seat of a car pulled over in May for running a stop sign in Punta Gorda. This woman, along with a 22-year-old driver, initially claimed they were trying to collect snakes and frogs from underneath an overpass. The deputy was given permission to search the bags in the trunk and subsequently found 41 three-striped turtles in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle backpack. When the deputy asked if the pair had anything else, this woman pulled out a 1-foot alligator from her yoga pants.
Oh my gosh. I was expecting like a Smurf's thermos.
She was charged with possessing an American alligator, possessing more than one turtle per day, transporting more than one turtle or turtle eggs, and one count of possessing a soft-shelled turtle, the Miami Court Herald reported.
Okay, before you continue.
Hold on.
Okay, you said she was charged for what? Transporting more than one turtle per day?
I heard possessing more than one turtle per day as well.
Possessing more than one turtle per day and transporting more than one turtle or turtle eggs, and one count of possessing a soft-shelled turtle.
Oh my gosh. There's so much that I'm happening for, but I'm focusing on this random law apparently Florida has that you can only move one turtle at a time.
Apparently
you
they
can only own one turtle per day.
They saw the backpack and they knew. They watched the movie back in the 80s and they made this law for a reason.
They put those
Anti-gang
turtles.
legislation.
Well, they put the turtles in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle backpack. And then she's like, oh, I had this alligator. What am I going to do with it? Oh, let me just put it in my yoga pants because we always have so much extra room in our yoga pants. And I'm wondering about the deputy going, oh, where'd that come from? Because, my yoga pants don't usually, yoga pants they're notorious for being like tight. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. But apparently you can't ever possess an America alligator as opposed to a non-America alligator, I guess.
That is true because they are protected.
Yes.
Now, I understand that law, but
Sure.
But you can't possess more than one turtle a day. But if you have one, maybe you could label them Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, like our old underwear used to be, and you could trade them out, maybe.
socks or something.
I guess. I don't know, maybe one per day. Today is, the 30th of whatever. Transporting more than one turtle. So if you had one turtle, you could transport, I guess if you possessed one turtle per day, you could transport that one turtle per day, but you can't transport more than one. Or turtle eggs. So you could have one turtle egg, but I don't know if that's per day or just lifetime. I don't know. And soft shell turtle. I don't know if you can ever possess that. It doesn't say per day.
I love the fact that
yeah.
out of this whole story, the weirdest part to us was not the fact she had stuffed a gator down her pants or the fact that she had a bunch of turtles stuffed in a backpack.
And then teenage mitten. Yes. Yes.
The weird loss of Florida. I love how we've completely missed the point of the story.
But we had a bag full of drugs with a bag full of drugs and a Ninja Turtle backpack with actual turtles in it. Man, I can't wait to see what other stories are coming up.
Right.
Well, I looked really closely in the story to see if she also had a rat that she was going to train to be like the ninja master, but I didn't see one. Maybe she wasn't charged with that. Maybe they had one and she just was. Maybe that's not against the law in Florida.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
I don't know, but she pulled that 1-foot alligator from her yoga pants, and it was very specific that it was yoga pants.
Yoga pants. Yeah,
Yoga
that
pants.
detail. That's amazing.
Yoga pants. Yes. Let that be a lesson to you.
I don't know what that
They
lesson
truly are amazing.
Yoga pants just hide a multitude of sins. And they are comfortable even.
Well, for my story, I've got the history of Yeehaw Junction. I know this is not quite a Florida man, but I want to make a point that Florida man has been going on for a long time. So here we go. Has anybody ever been to Yeehaw Junction?
I haven't, but I'm really hoping it's some kind of like Gator World type tourist trap.
Kind of, but kind of not.
It's okay. It's still Florida. It's going to be spectacular no matter what.
It's not a huge story, but it's amazing. It's just perfect for the amount of time that we have. I will give you a little bit of background of Yeehaw Junction personally. I used to go through Yeehaw Junction all the time. Yeehaw Junction was part of the trail that was blazed and cut through as Florida was becoming settled by people that were going through the expansion. Everybody always talks about the Western expansion, but during that time, Florida was being settled. And a lot of people don't realize there was all kinds of wars down here, and they were fighting all kinds of elements. It's really fascinating history. The group of people that primarily settled it, they have a special name called Florida Cracker. And Yeehaw Junction is actually on the main trail that would take them down to South Florida on the east side of Florida. So here we go. How did the Yeehaw Junction get its name? As odd as the name Yeehaw Junction sounds for the rural intersection of U.S. Route 441 and State Road 15 and close to the Florida's Turnpike, it was once even stranger. Until the mid-1950s, the site about 30 miles north of Lake Okeechobee and roughly the same distance west of Vero Beach was known as Jackass Junction or Jackass Crossing, after the primary mode of transportation was once used by the local ranchers, cowboys, and loggers that crossed the unpaved terrain. Their destination, the town's main attraction, the Desert Inn and Restaurant, established in 1898 as a trading post and eventually converted into a gas station, bar, brothel, and dance hall. They had it all in one spot. The site was so important to the area today that it boasts a proud spot on the U.S. National Register of Historic Places. When the plans were made to run the turnpike smack dab through the town in 1957, state legislators decided a name upgrade was called for. And so the Osceola County community, population of 240 as of 2010, borrowed its present name from the nearby Yeehaw station on the Florida East Coast Railroad, a bit further to the east, which begs the question, where did the depot get its name? It makes sense, as some claim, that travelers by mule will call out the southern expression of delight, yeehaw, on reaching the railroad depot. It has also made sense that the world is local native, Creek perhaps, word for wolf, and has nothing to do whatsoever with happy cowboys. In any case, it is believed that the ghost of the former owner of the Desert Inn still takes the time to rearrange the upstairs furniture or blast cold air down to its unsuspecting guest, although that story too has its shares of doubters. It may just be the spirit of an equally disgruntled employee, also known now and then to toss a decorative mannequin across the dining table. That is the story of Yeehaw. And I'm not finished. One other tidbit.
Of course you're not, because it's Florida.
In the 1950s, we had a little thing called the Cold War, and we were constantly trying to figure out how to sabotage Russia. One of our plans that we hatched was try to sabotage their crops, specifically wheat. And we came across a compound called wheat dust that we thought would help to wither wheat, but we needed to test it somewhere. So right outside in a tiny little place called Yeehaw Junction in the 1950s, the U.S. government secretly conducted a biological warfare experiment in hopes to destroy wheat. That is right outside of Yeehaw Junction. So this little tiny town was founded on a brothel. The U.S. Army conducted biological warfare experiments right outside of it, but it was formerly known as Jackass Crossing. So whenever someone brings up Florida Man as being a recent phenomenon, I just go, sir, ma'am, I beg to differ.
This sounds like the greatest country song that was never written.
I know, doesn't it? Yeah. Or a miniseries.
And you know what's funny is I've stopped at Yeehaw Junction lots of times. You can actually go to the Desert Inn. Now, last year they had a truck jump the road and crash into it. It was terrible.
Oh.
But the Desert Inn has been there from time out of mind. Over 100 years it's been standing. You can actually stop and go in. It's a tourist trap for anybody who actually goes that far out of their way to go to Yeehaw Junction. But you know what's really interesting is the residents love the fact they're from Yeehaw Junction. They're very proud of it. And there's only like 200 of them in the entire township. But I love that place. Every time I stop, it makes me smile because I stand there and you realize how much history has passed with Florida. And it's all nonsense history. It's all just crazy people doing crazy things for 250 years. And it's never more relevant than when you show up at the Desert Inn, which is now just like places you can buy knickknacks and stuff. But it's amazing. I love that story. There's other stories about Florida towns too, but that one always makes me laugh because I'm like, oh, it started with a brothel. That makes sense, sure. And you just wonder about the history of the craziness that went on during Yeehaw Junction and the fact that descendants are still very proud of being there. So yeah, I just want to make sure that everyone knows the Florida Man phenomenon has been around for a long time. This is nothing new. And we're glad the world has taken interest in us, but this is stuff we've been doing since the beginning. So I'm looking at the time. We're going to have to wrap it up here. I'm sorry. It's gone by so fast. But I tell you what, why don't we do a part 2? Is that something that might be fun for you guys?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do a part 2 because there's so many stories to pick from. We'll do a part 2. And then on top of that, I'm going to interweave something for next week. I'm fascinated with local lore around me, wherever I happen to live. And because I've been living in Florida for a very long time, I've been collecting all kinds of stories and all kinds of ghost stories, all kinds of interesting stories about Florida history, especially in the Central Florida area. So while we do Florida Man stories, I'm going to tell you some really cool and really interesting lore from Florida that's unique to them. That sound good to everybody?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I love it. I can't wait. I'm actually really looking forward to next episode. I love this stuff. It's endless fascination for me.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for joining me. And those who are listening, thank you for joining us. I hope you laughed as much as we did today and you had a great time. Hey, if you like what we do, I certainly hope that you do. You could show your support in a few different ways, and that would really help us as we're growing as a podcast. First of all, you can get involved with our community on Facebook. There's lots of little memes that we post there, and I do all kinds kinds of interaction with our fans. And that's a great way to get involved and meet other fans, but also, interact with us, because we're always checking it out. And like I said a while back, for those who are wondering who runs that page, well, all three of us do. So you might get a response from any one of us or all three of us. So we definitely hope that you interact with us there. You can find our Facebook page at You, Me, Your Mom. That's it. All you have to do is Google it and it should pop up. There's another place you can interact with us, and that's at our Instagram page, which is You, Me, Your Mom 99. That's You, Me, Your Mom 99. Constantly putting stuff there as well. And we've started a Twitter account finally. I finally embraced Twitter, and you can find us there as You, Me, Your Mom as well. And so that's really easy to find us there. There's not a lot of posts there at the moment because we just started it. But if you're a Twitter person, please come find us. We'd love to get in touch with you there. As another way you could show your support, on different podcast platforms, there's a place where you can leave reviews, especially like on iTunes and also Stitcher. They allow you to do reviews. It would be a big help if you guys left a review for us, and that way we know we're on the right track and that you enjoy it, or there's something we can improve on. Definitely read those reviews and give us likes, 5 stars if you can. I would love it if you did that, or whatever stars you feel appropriate. So that would be a great thing for us as well. And one last thing you can do to help us as we grow as a podcast is remember to share it with people that you know that might really enjoy what we do. So share us with your family and friends. That would be a big help. And there's 2 other ways to contact us real quick. You can leave us a voicemail wherever you go to find your podcast. Most of them have a special button that says leave a voicemail. You click on that, you can leave us a voicemail, and we can feature your lovely voice right on the podcast. There's one last way that you can contact us. We do have an email address, which is you, me, your mom 99 at gmail.com. That's you, me, your mom 99 at gmail.com, and it is spelled
YOUMEYOURMOM 99 at gmail.com.
Thanks, Brandon. Well, again, we thank you for joining us, and we hope that you had a lot of fun. And just remember, until next time, wherever you are in the big wide world, it can always get worse. I've been Eric. We've been joined by my best friend Brandon.
Bye.
And my mom.
Bye.
We'll see y'all later.